Well, it said entirely too many nice things. Well, you know, this is a powerful feeling. And I'm just going to stand here and enjoy it for a few minutes. You know, as I was thinking about what I was going to say, I asked myself, there's 7 years difference between me and my sister, so it's sort of like two families. There's 5 years difference between Harry and I. He will tell you 4, it's 5. But when we were growing up, we always got into trouble at the same time and got weapons at the same time. I never did understand that. You know, I mean, how could you always get a whipping at the same time as him? And as I was thinking about some things I wanted to say tonight, it came to me. I've asked myself that question all my life, and now I know the answer. You led me down the wrong path. Brand new car we ever had was a 1960 Ford Fairlane. And it had a steering wheel, and I think it had a heater, and not a whole lot else in there. It wasn't the luxury edition. But it was on the column, and my mother loved this car because she could reach into all 4 corners of this car. I still remember where we were. We were coming down Eastway Drive and turning on to Independence. And Harry was sitting in this corner. I was sitting in the middle. And my dear sainted grandmother, who, when she meets the Lord, her biggest sin is going to be worry. That's all she has ever done in her life is wrong. She's the last of the great Southern Bells, you know. But she's sitting back there holding the baby. Well, Harry said something Mama didn't like, and she reached back to get it. Now, she's changing gears, steering and turning, and shifting the clutch at the same time. But she reached it, and she had a full head of steam up, you know. Well, he ducked, grazed me, and she slapped my grandmother and slammed. This is the way she was. It did that hurt, she was owned up. Well, I saw the little tears coming out of her eyes, and I knew that was stinging. But the other area that I have fond memories of Harry and that 60 Ford Fairlane was, you know, Harry's got this thing about coming late to church. You know, he wants you to be on time. We were never on time for anything, anytime, anywhere. There's 5 mornings to get up for school. We overslept 4 of them. Now, in front of our house, the school bus would go in front of our house, and it would go up a couple of blocks, and it would come down into this street that dead ends right in front of our house on the other side. Now, my mama could set 3 alarm clocks in her room. But what would wake her up is that school bus going by. And you were expected to get dressed, get your books, comb your hair, and be out there the second time it came around. And you had maybe 4 minutes. And if you didn't, there was a lot of trouble you got into. Well, a lot of times we didn't make it. Mother being as smart as she was, Daddy was gone a lot sometimes. But Mother being as smart as she was, she learned the bus route. Now, before I tell you about the bus route, I have to kind of set the stage for this. This is back in the 60s. My mother got her hair fixed, and I'm sorry, Mom, I know we're not roasting you, but this is important. My mama got her hair fixed once a week, and that was back in the days you teased it way up. And you sprayed Coronet on it. And that lasted till the next week. And what she would rolled this in toilet paper, and then she put this beautiful pink bouffant hairnet on. But when she would wake up, all this would have been shifted to this side. And it took some time to pick all that back out again. She had also, that went with this ensemble, she had this leopard. It was a quilted leopard, you know, the little snap-up quilted, and it was a leopard, something that had been in style for a while. Well, this leopard had died some years ago. But she continued to wear it. Now it resembled something it had some age. And she would throw us in the car, and she would catch the bus on Independence Boulevard. And Harry would start begging from the minute we pulled out on Pearson Drive on Independence, on the please don't make me. Well, I left one part out. We didn't ever have time to defrost the car. So with this lovely head, she's sticking out the window. Shifting it down. We're going to catch this bus, son. And Harry's seeing all his little friends on the bus. He's got to get out and catch the bus. Run the bus down on Independence at 6 o'clock. That wasn't all that Harry had a problem with school. At the beginning of the week, Daddy would give him $1. I can't remember exactly what lunch money was then, but it was something like a quarter. I know I'm sounding like I'm coming out of the dark ages here. But that was the last part of the week. And Harry figured out a long time before that, I can do whatever I want to with this $1 because I'll charm somebody. I'll eat somehow, you know. So he probably got away with that a good little while. But one night after dinner, Mom and Daddy are sitting there drinking coffee. Daddy looks at Harry and he says, son, where's the change from that $1? Well, Daddy, I don't need any more lunch money. I got plenty. He said, well, do you have the change from it? Yeah, Daddy, I got it. Well, we're working in the kitchen. Daddy says, now I don't know why Daddy had to see that money, but because Harry wasn't asking for any more money. He said, son, go get me that change. Well, Harry looked at me. I was over at the sink, and he looked at me like a deer caught in the headlights. And he motioned for me to go on upstairs to my bedroom, and I'm like, here I am. We're going down the wrong path. I should have done this. And he goes down to his room, and he whispers to me up through the heat duct. We lived in a split level, and his room was in the bottom. My room was right above his, and so he whispered to me in the heat duct, do you have any money? And I said, yeah. So I shake, money out, and like an idiot, I go down those little steps right, and Mom and Daddy sitting there having coffee. Take him the money, and I come up to Daddy and says, Vicky, what you doing? No, nothing, Daddy, nothing. Harry comes up there, he's got the change. Here, Daddy. Well, what we didn't know, that heat duct worked in that dining room. But I had to hand it to him. He was smart. Right here, he figured that out, So I would never come up with talking through the heat duct. You learned real quick with Mother or Dad that you didn't threaten to do something unless you were fully prepared to do it. So one evening, Harry was explaining to Mother that he doesn't really like it at our house anymore, and one day she just might find him gone. He was going to run away from home. I think he'd seen Jimmy Leave It to Beaver show. But, so Mother said, well, why not now? Pushed him out the door and locked it. Well, I was upstairs in the shower, and Harry's standing down there in the hole in his sock thing on the patio, and he's throwing rocks at the window. He knows I'm up in the shower. I'm like a fool. Here I go again. I open the Vicky, could you get me some shoes? So I go down there. Now, Mother, she has radar. I don't know how she saw me do this, because I gave him those shoes out of the bottom back door. She knew it. And there we were. That was another whipping that I got into for doing nothing except helping. I've been led down the wrong path again. Most of our troubles came from one source. Most of the trouble that we got into came from one source, and that was cleaning house. Now, my mother she could have been with my father in the Marines as a drill sergeant. We didn't just clean house. We enjoyed it. We did it from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And she thought that there were 2 wonderful days in the week besides Sunday. And that was her day off, which was Wednesday, and our day off, which was Saturday. And you were to clean. Now, most people would call what we do on those days spring cleaning, but that was done twice a week. And then just a few things were done every afternoon when we got home from school. And she had a list, and she had some things that the sinks always had to be done with Ajax. And Pine-Sol had to permeate the whole house. I mean, she had to smell that Pine-Sol. Well, Harry's job was the bathroom. We had different things. We made up the beds together. I dust mopped, he did the bathroom. Well, he got very resourceful and decided that he was going to create some shortcuts. And I went in the bathroom one day and he's just polishing with a towel the sink. Mother had this trick: if the water sheeted, she knew you'd be cleaned. And I mean, she went on inspections, and so. And I thought about it, I was thinking about when I was doing this, he spent more time with his shortcuts than he did if he had just done the real thing. But he was very clever. He put Pine-Sol all around the back door so that when she walked in, she got the Pine-Sol. So soon, Harry got old enough, he graduated from the indoor jobs and he went to the outdoor jobs. And this was always the source. He didn't like outdoor work at the yard either. And Mother was with Daddy away, and Harry got to be like 6 foot tall, whatever, big fella, real quick. And there's Mother alone with 4 children. My dad's in spring training or wherever. And so she would resort to whatever she had in her hand to get your attention with. And one day she's standing in the dining room and she looked at Harry and she said, "Son, I want the yard done today." And Harry's coming down the steps, and this is about the time he learned he had some charm. He's coming down the steps and he's got on his Oxford cloth shirt, and the style then was to wear it out of your jeans. You wore it hanging out. And it had to be starched, and no socks and jeans and your wedges. And I mean, he's styling, he's on his way somewhere, and the yard was not in his program that day. And Mother said, it's really good to be. But Mother said, "Son, don't you understand English? I want the yard done today." She raises the book up, and Harry has just taken his first course in Spanish 1. So he starts speaking in Spanish. And it always worked. I mean, she forgot about it. She started laughing. But Cindy, I've always wanted to know, when my brother proposed to you, did he say, "Will you marry me," or "Do you mow grass"? I'll stay out of that one. We had an old lawnmower. I can never remember us having a new lawnmower that aged. I mean, we always had an old one, a piece of junk that was held together with twine or, whatever. And it was one of those, I don't know if y'all remember, but you had to pull that cord about 80 bazillion times before it would warm the engine up. And so Harry would go out there and he'd yank on that thing about 4 or 5 times. Well, lawnmower would start. And he'd go off and play ball in the park. Daddy would come home, and I don't know, we're good Presbyterians, and I believe the Lord's in control of everything. But it was like the Lord would touch that lawnmower. Because when Daddy would lean down and pull that cord, it would start up like a John Deere. I mean, and Harry had told me, "The lawnmower's broke. I cannot mow this grass." He went away to college and then got married, and there was a lull. And about this time, I started dating. Well, I won't even go here because he didn't like anybody I dated. Cindy and Harry moved back home, and Cindy was pregnant with Jennifer, and he was going to Covenant College, and they moved back home for that summer. And Cindy was pregnant with Jennifer. And I noticed that night, when I was in high school, we got air conditioners installed in the windows. And this was a wonderful thing because one was in Mom and Daddy's bedroom and one was in the dining room. And I could come in anytime they couldn't hear the cars pull up. You know, I mean, it was like some other thing that kept them real good and asleep. Well, Harry would sit up, and he did it very deliberately. It was really hateful. He would sit up. You know, Daddy talked about the transformed heart. Well, before he was saved, what transformed him, it was amazing when he got married how he changed. You know, and that had played out in the people that I dated. It was suddenly like, we're going to take a look at this. You know, who is this fellow? You know, all these wild oats are over for him. Suddenly, he's the responsible father and parent. But Harry would wait up. And I just figured he was probably going to tell Mom and Dad the exact hour that I landed inside the house. But you know, for leading me down the wrong path so many times, and making my dating years traumatic, this could be why I waited so late to get married. The Lord allowed him to redeem himself. Scotty and Harry were sitting together. I think Scotty had just sold Harry's house, and Calvin called. And Harry looked at Scotty and he says, you know, I think they ought to date. Well, the last time I got to speak about Harry was February the 10th, 1993. And that was Harry's 10-year anniversary. And he said something that embarrassed me to death. I don't know if y'all remember that. But afterwards he said, you know, I can't wait to see who the Lord has for her. And I thought, good grief, I'm 40 years old, let's not talk like I'm 15, you know. But a year later, almost to the day, in the same spot, I was married. To someone that he introduced us to. So, Harry, at least you got the important paths right.
After Harry had become a Christian, I was 40, 41, 40, and I was working with the youth in the church, and Harry was just doing so super. I said, Harry, come and work with the young people. And that suited him fine. I was sort of keeping an eye on him, you understand. His theology was wobbly a little bit, but he has an enthusiasm and zeal, and just started working with the youth at the church. All the time he was sitting under Pastor Tiggerlaw's preaching. And you got to appreciate, and I can really appreciate it because I came from my background in the Methodist church, and when I started hearing this strange stuff of Reformed theology, covenant theology, I don't know about this stuff. And Harry was still in the same boat. He had enough theology, or he thought he did, where he was raised in church. We all have theology. Sometimes we don't know exactly what it is. We all have theology. And so Dick Tiggerlaw was preaching, and I think one summer or one time he started preaching through Romans, I believe, which Harry is preaching now. Harry got a good start from Dick. And according to Cindy tells the story. Harry got so mad at Dick on this preaching of Reformed theology, would shake hands with him for a week. So during that time, Harry was blessed, really blessed. Hand of God again, having a tender, great pastor to move you from one point to another point, and that was Dick Tiggerlaw. did come up and share with you.
I thought Harold was going to take some of my thunder. I had come to Faith Church in around '66. My background had been Baptistic, Arminian, dispensational, the whole route. And I began reading, studying, and I came through the whole 180 degrees and was really excited about the Reformed faith. So when I came to faith, I began to preach almost completely on Reformed doctrine. When I got to Romans, that was wonderful. I could really preach on predestination and all of those great truths, sovereignty of God. And I noticed this young man who was coming to church now was quite rude. He would sit there and shake his head. And I'd stand at the door after the service, and Cindy was real sweet, and she'd shake hands, but he'd just brush right on by. And this happened for a couple of weeks, and I thought, well, I've got to get over and visit with these folks. So I went over to the house and rang the doorbell, and you know, as you come up the sidewalk, you usually can see the curtain, whether somebody's watching, and I noticed the curtain suddenly dropped back in place. And as soon as Cindy came to the door opened, and I heard the back door close. She said, well, Harry's out. I said, yeah, out the back door. The Lord, as Harold told us, really did a wonderful work in his heart, and he began to work with young people and began to grow. And we realized that we were just running out of transportation, using all of the parents to transport the kids that he was just bringing in. So we figured we needed something larger. And so one of our elders, Ralph Sams, was a car salesman, good old honest Ralph. And he says, oh, I can get you one. I can get a bargain. So he got us a Volkswagen van. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, these were very popular with the Love Children and all of these folks. So he got us a real bargain, and he said that it's only got 20,000. And that sounded like a wonderful deal. And it was painted, you know, hand painted. You see the brush marks. Every once in a while you see a spot of blue or pink or yellow on it. So Harry was taking these young people all over the place with the meetings and camp meetings. So he would load up that van. I think he'd get about 15 in there, 18 if he could. And he'd get going, he'd get on the highway. And no, I would need to back up. When we checked further, it wasn't 20,000, about 200,000 miles. So Terry would get on the highway, and all packed, cars loaded, following him along. Pretty soon we get a telephone call out on I-85. Pastor, the van's broke down. Blew a rod. So we had to go out and bring that van in. Another time, Pastor, the van's broke down. Blew a piston. And we're having more trouble with that van. Come to find out, the oil needs to be checked now and then, you know. But the work grew, and the Lord blessed, and Harry went off to college and so on. One day we got a notice from the church. They wanted something about Harry in a resume. And we filled it out, and we said he's a fine young man, a good teacher, he's really biblically literate, but actually he's automobile illiterate. Whatever you do, don't let him get a hold of your church thing.
Okay, I'm going to finish up tonight. I really can't say much bad about Harry. I'm smarter than Vicki and Harry, and that I know that our pastor gets the last word. I really knew Harry, I guess I'd say AC, after Christ. I've heard some stories, big stories. When Harry first started working with the youth, almost immediately, you just see the enthusiasm and things are going. And probably before he realized it, even himself, you could see the kind of hand in this man's life. He had a gift with people. And later on, obviously, that turned out to be a realization and truth. Even today, it's just a blessing to me to hear him preach and just know where he was to where he is now. Just a couple maybe humorous things, and then we'll wrap up tonight. The van. Was it orange? Or yellow?
Black.
Black.
Yeah, with yellow, black.
Well, Harry was the youth, head of the youth. This one particular time, Mary remembers this very well. Harry was going to Myrtle Beach with the youth. I think it was Myrtle Beach. 4-hour trip, 220 miles. In the van. With all these screaming teenagers. Mary and I, he was leaving from the church. Mary and I go over there to see them off. To encourage them. Harry and Cindy and I, we had become pretty close now. They came out of our house pretty quickly, and we banded theology around and everything else. And we saw them all, waved to them goodbye. And they were hollering, that was the greatest time in the world. It's just, you know how teenagers do. Mary and I went out to eat. And I guess about an hour. We were going maybe eating an hour. We came back to our house, which was 10 blocks from the church. And came by, going down a couple blocks from our house, and here's the service station on the corner. Man, these young people all over the place. I said, man, look at that. That's our van. Here's this guy out there. All these kids all around there with you, and I said, we're going to stop. I stopped him. He said, Harold. He was so glad to see me. The van's broken down. We got 7 blocks. And all these kids were like, what are you going to do? I'm not going to do one the weekend to the beach. Well, we hustled around, got us some cars, and he was able to get all those kids and get them down there. And had a major impact on many of those kids' lives. Led many out to the Lord, changed many of their lifestyle. And we talked to them. I guess it was his first year. Harry, we decided Harry was really developing then, college. He come back to college. We decided that, I think we did, we'd try to work out if we could have a youth pastor, youth intern during the summer. And the church couldn't afford to pay Harry the money that he would need because by that time now he's got a family and he's needing to make money in the summer in order to help him through college and working 2 or 3 jobs in college. And so I said, well, what we'll do is I'll get him a job at our plant for half a day. And at lunchtime he can leave and go sit under Dick's study and visit, hospital visit stuff with Dick and do various things. And I have another motive too in mind. I said, at that time Harry decided the Lord had called him to ministry. I said, I want this young man, myself, I can tell him about it. I want this young man to get some really dirty work in the plant. So if he's going to be a pastor, he will know how a lot of the people he preaches to live. And we'll see how he can take it. And so we put him in the plant, and he just did fantastic. Just super. He just had impact out in the plant. These guys were tough guys coming in and saying, this guy, you know, he's all right. And a couple of guys, some of the guys at the plant came to me and said, Mr. Jones said, we'd like to have a doctor. I said, okay, you guys organize it. We'll pay the schedule, we'll pay the money. We'll get trophies, we'll get the big trophies and stuff, and we'll sponsor it. You all organize it. I don't know much about God. Well, I don't think they knew a whole lot either, but they got it going. Well, Harry was there that summer. He got into it. Harry was a good golfer. Fair golfer, good golfer. I don't know what kind of golfer. He was a good golfer, I guess. That's what I hear. What he tells me anyway. So they played this golf during the summer, and it didn't finish. They didn't finish it. So end of the summer, they were still out a few more matches to play. Harry had to go back to college. And so when they tallied up all the scores, they come to me and said, this kid that went off to college won the thing. Harry had won it. So I said, okay, play it fair. You know, we're going Okay, so what they did, mailed it to Harry, and next year, and they want to have a golf tournament. Rule 1, no summer help can play. It's amazing grace. From an amazing sovereign God that plucks an average couple, an average person, and turns Charlotte upside down. So, and I'm eternally grateful for that. And I just, all the things you said tonight, I want us to remember when God be the glory. I want to ask our pastor to come and dismiss this. Everybody stand up if you would.
Oh, wait just a minute. No, don't stand there. Just give me 2 minutes. All right?
Bill, we tried, didn't we?
No, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I do want to thank you. And I've been on a week's vacation. In fact, we just got back at 5 o'clock. And this is what welcomes me home. Roast me or toast me or whatever. But seriously, folks, you guys away for a week with Cindy. That gives me a lot of time to pray and think. And let me tell you, Charlotte, not only Charlotte, but our country desperately needs the work of the gospel. And I'm really thankful that in God's providence, on just even though it's an interim basis, maybe it won't be, I don't know, that I get the privilege to focus in pastoral ministry with you and the Hosannas as a congregational community. And I'll tell you why. Because there's so much wisdom in this room, so much love for the Lord. I think, you know, when I read the scriptures in Titus 2, it says, older men teach the younger men. It doesn't say old men, it says older. We're not old. And then it says, older women teach the younger women, encourage them. You know, the world, as people get older, they get cynical, critical, and just basically cantankerous. It's the opposite of Christians. As they get older, they get the opportunity to be an example, to be an encourager. Do you know how many of these young families in our church are literally hundreds and hundreds of miles away from fathers and mothers and grandparents? And in many, many cases, increasingly, from broken homes. And I really believe that if we turn the world upside down with the gospel, it'll be because Christians love the Lord, they love the lost, and they love each other. And I believe this congregational community can be the most powerful. And I'm just praying for that this year. And I want to be here to help you. But I'll tell you what, it is amazing that God has provided Dick Gibbons, Harold Jones, and Dick Tebow as we have a pastoral team in this community. It really is. What a privilege to work with these guys. So look forward to that. I will not return evil for evil. Insult for insult, eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth. I wouldn't dare do that. I wouldn't tell you all that. One of the reasons why I do have a commitment to learn people's names is because when I was joined Faith Presbyterian Church, Dick Tebow introduced me to the congregation as Walter Reeder. I would by no means would do that. Nor would I tell you that Harold Jones came up to me and said, you can't be Harry Reeder. I played football with Harry Reeder, and you can't be Harry Reeder. And I explained to him that was my dad and all of that. He still didn't believe me. And he only took me home to find out how long this lie would continue. And I won't tell you how I'm so glad that Miriam married him and rescued him from all that he probably would have been. I'm not going to do that tonight. And I'm not going to tell you the unbelievable sacrifice I went through to protect my sister. You wouldn't believe some of the dogs she brought home. I refuse to do that. I'm not even doing it. And nor am I going to tell you about what it was like to go to a baseball game. Everybody wanted to kill your father because he really did. He umpired a terrible game. I just have to be honest. I couldn't fake it. But what I will tell you is this. I did have a patient pastor who helped me embrace the whole counsel of God, the sovereignty of God. who put up with my cantankerous, youthful zeal and taught me the Word of God. His name was Dick Tevye-Vaughn. It's been a privilege to have him here in his perhaps most productive years in retirement in Christ's Covenant as we see his ministry throughout our midst. I cannot tell you what it has meant to have a spiritual father like Harold Jones and Miriam to support us and to encourage us. When I came here, it was my prayer that God would somehow bring them to Christ's Covenant, but I never said that to them. But the Lord opened up the door for them to be here, and I was so grateful for that. And obviously, I can't tell you what it has meant to see all three of my sisters own Christ, marry Christian men, two of which are deacons in the PCA, one of which will be a deacon as soon as we can get him out of Asheville and back to Charlotte. and to see them grow and to take leadership in ministry, it is just remarkable to see that. And then finally, I am unbelievably blessed to have the heritage of my family, in which the gospel of grace broke in, with a grandfather who led his father to the Lord, and my dad's commitment to Christ in 1948, his recommitment to Christ, to see my dad and mom, to have the privilege to be their pastor and to be with them, and then to have all of these stories that I could just tell you so many of tonight. And I won't. But it's wonderful when we get together as a family. We don't watch television. We don't go get videos. We'll play games sometimes. What we really do is sit around and tell stories. God's given us great ones as a family. And that's why we've got to minister the gospel to young people and to families so they'll have these same stories that they can share. The stories of, as was sung at the outset, Amazing Grace. Let's stand for prayer. Lord, thank you so much for the privilege to be together in the Lord, to enjoy good times like this, and to encourage one another in the Lord. Father, I thank you for your grace and mercy in my life as I have been reminded of tonight. Not simply an average person, but one who would have been the chief of sinners if left to his own devices. But you have been so gracious to call me out of darkness into light, to use people like you've been here tonight, and to see what you have done in just a powerful way. Lord, to thank you for the privilege to not only know Jesus, but to serve Jesus, and for us to be able to do that together. Thank you for the love of Christ. May it bind us together, and may the love of Christ compel us and propel us into this world to show forth the majesty of him who is the Savior of sinners and King of kings and Lord of lords. Jesus, do guard these your people as they go and leave here, knowing that you will never leave them nor forsake them. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Lord bless you. Thank you. I know this is way behind some of your bedtime.